What's up, guys? Welcome back to what is gonna be a messed up video because, as you can see, there's some quote unquote breaking news from Henderson on Henderson, and we talked about Henderson a couple of days ago, and I said that's probably not gonna happen. I recorded a video, and again, this video is gonna be quite long, but it's not gonna be about Henderson. I recorded a video because I'm out today, so I recorded it. It's about Juntoli going against Napoli and all the targets and potentially signing a midfield. And I was like, upload, going to bed. And then boom, Di Marzio, Henderson. So I'm recording this and pasting it to the first video I recorded. So that's why it's going to be a very weird one. However, there is a big Henderson update. And before we get into it, smash the like button because I'm going to need it after this news. So hit that like button. And yeah, man, Henderson. A couple of days ago, that news came out, and I said, yeah, forget about it. And I'm still gonna say forget about it. However, that the news is now reported by Di Marzio is a bit worrying because it feels like okay, there's something to it, because he is a better source than the first source that came out with the Henderson thing. And he's saying Juve have held talks with Henderson. The situation, however, is complicated. Henderson, in fact, would like a loan for 18 months. Juve needs to sign a midfielder while balancing technical and financial requirements. And it's not going to happen. And it's not about jinxing. It's because of money and all those things. But in what planet are we being linked with Henderson? Like, the only logical explanation is his agent is doing the best PR thing he's possibly could do to bring Henderson back from the Saudi league. Otherwise, this makes no sense because he's 33 years old. I don't know what money he's on. I don't want to even know that. Whatever it's on, it's obviously too much. But even if it wasn't plus 10, it's still way too much. It's a plus 5. He's 33 years old, Henderson. He fitted a good period for Klopp with the work rate, the pressing, all those things, and fine. When I look at that lineup, we don't need Henderson. I don't think anyone was watching that Salernitana game, going down to 10 men, looking at our midfield, and was sitting there and were like, you know what? A player like Henderson would have made the difference here in midfield. Nobody was thinking that. Forget about that game. Just the 19 games in the league. I think nobody is thinking we need a player like Henderson to make a difference. Not even to push Locatelli more up the field. Because still, he's 33 years old. Even the money, like I'm not even talking about money, but just the profile, the age, and what we have and what we actually need in this squad. This news is sad. I don't believe it, by the way. I think his agent reached out and that's how it's being reported, basically. I refuse to believe that Juntoli called up his agent and was like, hey, what about Henderson for a couple of months? I refuse to believe that. I really do. I'm going off my theory of his agent is putting this out there. And maybe he probably reached out to Juve and now the news is Juve are in talks or held talks with Henderson. Because that's not a good thing, let's be completely honest. I actually have no real in-depth words on this link because it's a link that should not be should not be happening at all. It shouldn't be happening. If that's the link we want to do, then play Nicolucci every single week. That's a player that's a no-go. We talked about Phillips, Højbjerg. That's on the list as well. That's absolutely a no-go. And again, looking at the news, it's probably not going to happen. However, it's out there, so we need to discuss that, basically. On Henderson. No, not on Henderson. On Ederson. Atalanta are not selling. That's also an update from Di Marzio. The club will try again in June. So let's see about that. Now, second part of the video, I've recorded before this news broke. So that's going to be about Juntoli going against Napoli on midfield signings as well. So watch that one. And yeah, I'll see you guys. Ciao. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Bianconeri Zone for a daily news update. I was expecting some big news on a potential midfield signing, and it's not the big news I was expecting, but there's some interesting news. It feels like, or I feel like personally, that Giuntoli is kind of messing about with Napoli a little bit. It reminded me of that story Mochi once told, that the Inter sporting director were sitting in the stand alongside him, and Mochi said out loud, "That's a player we want," and the next couple of weeks later, Inter signed him, and Moji was like, "We never wanted that player. He was basically crap. Like we kind of fooled him." That's the vibes I'm getting based on how Napoli's moving. However, there are a few updates, so we are gonna discuss those for sure. Before we do that, hit that like button. Do it now. Let's get to 75 likes on this video. That should be the goal. So 75 likes. Thanks everybody who is supporting the channel and liking these videos. Really appreciate, and it does mean a lot for me and the channel. So let's get straight into the video. Okay, so I think we all were expecting some sort of big update on Samardzic or Ederson, or name the midfielder, Mangala, apparently. The update or the big story is not out there. However, there are a few indications. First of all, Mirko Di Natale said what I said during my live yesterday, or like post-game. Yeah, yesterday. So, Ederson, Atalanta are not going to let Ederson leave, which was expected, I guess. I said it. Like, it makes no sense for Atalanta to let one of their better players go, like Koop Meiners, excuse me, go mid-season, when you look at the league standing and you're like, man, that fourth place is just up for grabs. You have Napoli there, you have Atalanta there, you have Fiorentina there, you have Bologna there, Lazio and Roma probably will chip in a bit. So that is massive. On top of that, even potentially fifth place could be a spot in the Champions League next season. So it makes no sense for Napoli for Atalanta to sell their best players, like for Koop Meiners, not for Ederson. So that's what I said when the news came out. I'm like, good, I like the player, but there's no way we're getting him in January. Like, that will be bad business for Atalanta to do, if I'm being honest. So that got dismissed really quickly. But the big news update is that, I don't know, we were linked. It was Samardzic, kind of came out of nowhere. And then it was like, okay, now Napoli are panicking, and I wake up in the morning, I see a report from Corriere Sport saying they're pushing to 40 million plus another Udinese player. I forgot now, and I was like, "Ooh, this doesn't sound really legit," because the issue is not really the fee. I mean, there's no agreement between Udinese and Napoli, but I think the bigger issue for Napoli at this moment in time is that Samardzic is not really answering. That's like, you can offer 100 million. If Samardzic is saying no, then that's the main issue. So I was like, okay, good story, but the main issue is still there, convincing Samardzic. And then we had Di Marzio talking about Mangala from Nottingham Forest. I don't know him. I'm gonna be completely honest, but it's a head scratcher. I'm like, really? That's the player you want to bring in? Kind of out of nowhere. And then today, Di Marzio says Napoli are pushing for Mangala because they want to beat Juve to it. However, Juve never really made any contacts. I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. It feels like Giuntoli is just messing about, and maybe he remembers every single Napoli target on the list, and he's actually putting feelers out there to make Napoli think we're going for him, because like the stories, they do not add up. Excuse me. At all. They do not add up at all. First, it started, it's gonna be Diallo, and that's it. Then it started, we're in for Samardzic, but for the summer, and it quickly flipped to they're trying to see if it's possible even for now, and then Ederson is a main target for now. I'm like, wow, that went really quickly from nothing, from nothing to everything, jackpot in January, basically. So I'm like, very confusing news stories. However, it's the same thing. The club made the decision that if it's possible, they will bring in a player for Allegri to help out or to push potentially for a title, because we can turn around and say We don't need anyone. We have Miretti and we have Mikani if he's fit, and we are over there. I'm like, good. But that narrative was not out there up to the Salernitana game. When we beat them in the Coppa Italia, that narrative was not out there. And keep in mind, it's 2 games, because in the league against Salernitana away from home, we were poor again. We struggled big time to break down a Serie B side playing with 10 men. So you cannot let those 2 games kind of judge potentially the reality of the season. It's all fun. 10 goals in 2 games. We scored 25% of our goals in 2 Coppa Italia games. That feels like not the reality. For me, that's not the reality. That's just 2 1-off games, basically, 2-off games. Because the reality is we struggle to score. Like we scored 29 goals in 19 games. So that's not a lot, especially when you score 10 and 2. That's why I'm like, take those 2 games out of it, because 19 games is a bigger sample size than 2. The 2 games are important because they tell us we can play in a different way. However, in the league, that's not happening at all. Why? Perin said we play a bit more defensively. Teams are a bit closed up in the league compared to the Coppa Italia. Fair, I guess. The second point, the first point, that's on you. Like, you set up defensively. That's not the opponent's fault. However, besides those, like, forget those 2 Coppa Italia games. Like, you cannot convince me that you watch that and you're like, we don't need any help. And I like Miretti. I'm probably his biggest fan on this channel. Like, I got called out for it months ago when I said I still believe in him. He has very great potential. I was like, sell him. Just get him out of the club. Not even loan. Sell him. I'm like, that's crazy. And everybody was calling me out. And now, based on 2 games, everybody's like, oh, we do have Miretti. I'm like, fine. Like, great. I'll take it. However, what about the other 19 games? Like, the sample size for the argument to make a signing is much bigger than the sample size of not making a signing, because it's 19 games versus 2 games. It's 29 goals in 19 games versus 10 goals in 2 games. So I still believe you need to make a signing, because next season we're going into Europe in Champions League. I cannot mess that up now. And you're going to play 8 games, and you're not going to play Salernitana or Frosinone at home on a Thursday evening. You're going to play high-level, top-quality teams. I don't know how the draw is going to be. You don't play home and away. Like, you play the same team home and away, excuse me. But you can be playing Bayern and Real Madrid and City. Who knows? I don't know how the draw works. However, it's not Salernitana and Frosinone. You need depth. Even if you don't win the title now, next season, the club was going to look for that, and improving the squad. Like, the starting positions still need to improve. And again, I don't want to single out players, but let's go back. If we want to be dominant, and you think back at the teams of 2016 and 17, and just name it, if you want to get back to that level, a lot of these players are not starting. They're just not starting. Some might not even be at the club, If you look at the bench, everything in its entirety. So that's a discussion we can have at the end of the season, definitely. But the club is looking at it, and we should be looking at it, and we're like, yeah, signings are needed. And if it's now, then good. If it's now, because we're going to sign him in the summer. So let's see how that will evolve. But I think it's a bit crazy. Not crazy. Yeah, I think it's a bit crazy, because I think it's very reactionary based on 2 games that we are saying we don't need those signings, because the sample size of those 19 games are much, much bigger. We won 6-1 against Salernitana. We struggled a couple of days later. And then we come back against Frosinone, and we look good again. Now, let's see what will happen against Sassuolo. Personnel-wise, it depends a lot on those things. But Perin admitted that we played safely in the league. That means you need players that can break games open completely, even in that midfield, because that midfield is still not quality enough. Like, we need to be honest with that as well. Like, if you compare that to top teams, like, it's nowhere near close. Now, how good Rabiot is playing, or Locatelli is playing, or Mikani is playing, quality-wise, pure quality, if you want to improve, and that's what the goal is, obviously, mid-season, next season, the following years, you're going to improve. You evolve as a team. Because I don't think anyone was saying, let's go back 2015. I don't think anyone was saying, just sell one of Vidal, Pirlo, Marquinhos, or Pogba. Like, we play 3, whatever, like, No, like you keep all of them. Like you just keep. That's why we were great. Like we have very good options. So I don't know what the issue is with having options, in my opinion. But we will see if we will bring somebody in January. That's it for me for today. Like the video. 75 likes is the goal for this video. So smash that like button. Really appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow with another update.